Hey guys, hey there,
Okay.
hey Brett. Hey everyone, I guess we'll start. Welcome to Old Devs 31. Um, maybe we can. I'll appoint note takers for today. I don't know if Gabby would be able to take notes today.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Thanks. And Emilio, will you feel comfortable doing that too, or?
Not really. I feel that I'm too new, and there are some topics that I really don't understand yet
Got it.
fully. So yeah.
Cool. We'll keep that for another time then. Maybe Kevin, you can do that.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Awesome. So the notes, the link to the notes are in the chat. Feel free to pick that. Is there anyone new? I guess 2 weeks ago we had Emilio introducing himself and joining Odark. But otherwise, I think we don't have anyone new today. So what we'll do, we have three topics for today, but before that, we'll go through the update routine with each team, and maybe we can have the Aragon One team start the update round this week. Brett or Jorge, do you want to take the mic?
Yeah, I can do it for the client side. I think the biggest news was releasing 0.8 last week. And since then, we've just been coordinating around what to do for the next quarter. And in the immediate term right now, we're looking at supporting the releases of both open enterprise and fundraising in the, I guess, next 2 weeks, next 3 weeks before DevCon. But yeah, we've been reaching out to see what you guys need and if you need templates or things like that built into the front end.
I can. Sorry, Brett. I cannot see anyone taking notes in the document. I don't know if it's just me or Gabby. Kevin, are you actually taking notes at the moment?
Yeah. I think Kevin is taking for now.
Yeah, I'm writing.
Got it. Okay. That's just me not seeing the updates. All right. Thank you, Brett. Anything else?
I think Jorge or Falco, might be able to update on the court.
I believe the notes are being taken in the agenda. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's a discrepancy.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
should I go on? Okay. Well, during the last week, we've been kind of planning the rest of the year for the court and basically trying to finish all the testing phase that we're developing currently. All the unit testing and some kind of integration and simulations that we want to do. And basically after that, as I was saying before, kind of planning what we're going to do for the rest of the year. That is basically trying to cover all the stuff regarding to the audit of the contracts, deployment tasks, and some are development that we need to take care of. I don't know, Jorge, if you would like to add something else?
No, regarding the core, that's a good summary. I'm currently working on a forum post, like detailing how the network could be launched, kind of like a proposal for its launch. That should be coming up at some point this week. And yeah, a lot of planning for how the launch will go.
Cool. Anyone wants to jump in and reflect on what has been said from the Aragon One's update? Then, if it's not the case, let's have Otarik update us.
Yep. Hi. So we're continuing the push for mainnet release. During this last cycle, the design systems are basically finished, except for like the internal updates, which we're working on allocations. And after that, I think we've got about 1 or 2 apps left. In addition, Chad did some work on front-end development solution using mocking. There was some work done from Kevin on the automated continuous deployments, which should be good going forward. And hopefully we'll be able to use that for testing the Ring-B deployment before the mainnet release. From Owl's side, they have basically finished the initial proof of concept of the necessary API changes for the storage, and they're moving into contract-based pinning. Sorry. We've also finalized the changes for the audit, and we're handing that off to them to get them to sign off on the changes we've made. And then we've started work on the templates that we'll be using, and managed to get Mixed Bytes to do an audit on those templates. So that should be starting in the next few days. There's 3 main templates that we're going to work with, but only one's relevant for the mainnet release, and that's basically just like the Open Enterprise primary use template. That's the one that we'll probably look to coordinate with A1 to get added into the main launcher, since the other 2 rely on contracts that didn't go through the audit process. But yeah, for the next 2 weeks, it's basically full force ahead for the mainnet. We need to finish up the updates for each of the apps, and then work on publishing and everything like that. So that's it from us. I'll pass it on.
Cool. Any question on what Arthur just said?
I guess for the sake of the note taking, Arthur, can you run through each of the templates real quick?
Yeah, so the 3 templates are our primary base template, and then one that uses the modified token manager, and one that adds in discussions. So those are the 3 templates that we'll be looking at. But again, the modified token manager isn't something that we're trying to push to mainnet necessarily, depending on demand, and the discussions definitely isn't something that we'll explicitly be pushing to get on mainnet either, since the discussions are in a very early stage and haven't been audited.
All good? All right. Then, do you have anything to share from Open Work Labs?
Yeah, thanks. So like Arthur was saying, we're working on a bigger initiative now, which is basically building support for an organization data store, which is backed by IPFS. And eventually that's kind of like a place where apps and the client itself can pin user-generated content to on behalf of both users and like the organization itself. So the first step that we're taking is just letting the Aragon client pin some JSON blobs to an organization's data store. The logic for that is in a draft PR. And we should be able to finish that in and have it ready to be reviewed by the end of the week. We're like, the strategy that we're taking here is just trying to like build some proof of concepts as fast as possible, and then get feedback on strategies. That way it's a little it's a little more clear to everyone what's actually happening, and there's less unknowns. So as we start to submit PRs and as we start to sort of solidify things and how they're working, we'll ask for review on sort of shorter scales. So the PR that is in the client repo, I think Arthur might have said the API changes. Actually, nothing's in the API yet. It's all in the client. Those should be, yeah, it's pretty small, so it should be an easy thing to review. Yeah, that's basically it.
Great. Any question? Any questions on that or anything to add?
Oh, I should add one thing. This is something that Brett and I and the Autark team had been talking about, but essentially, like, if an organization just gets made, you know, like yesterday or something, we'll use like an Aragon association node that's backed by Pinata as like a bootstrap node for that organization, and we'll limit pin requests to under a certain size, so that organizations can't just pin a ton of data to Autark's node. Eventually, when we have like the full infrastructure ready, we can limit pinning requests based on an organization level. So we could say an organization has up to, you know, like a megabyte of space that they can pin to, and we can track that over time. And once they get to a megabyte, say, hey, it's time to move off the Aragon Association's provider to your own store. They could choose, you know, like in Fura, they could choose their own Pinata. They could choose, you know, eventually like an IPFS cluster that they deploy themselves, and so on. So that's sort of just a little bit more of the strategy there.
Great. Thanks, John. Questions on that? Cool. Then we'll have Gabby and Daniel maybe update us about what you guys have been up to with the mesh team.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Luis. We've been mostly doing some review with the issues that been coming up in the dev channels, and we also been updating the Aragon with the new fundraising apps, and also include a new Hatch registry for the Vlogs teams to publish in that. We also been fixing some issues we had with Ganache in the Aragon that caused the transaction passing to not work correctly in the apps. Then we also released recently a new version of the Aragon CLI that mostly include the new client, and we also include the new Ganache, Aragon version, and it also includes some fixes for the new templates that were not working as expected. Yeah, and then I've been mostly focusing dev support and doing the support stuff, so Daniel could focus on the architecture and patterns research for how we are going to how could look like the next iteration of the Aragon client, the Aragon CLI, and new features that we would like to have and how we will structure. And I'm really excited about all the things that he came up. So look forward to share with you in the next couple of weeks. And we also been onboarding Matthew and Sasha. These are hopefully we can introduce Matthew in the next dev call. Yeah, and I think Daniel is gonna also bring up some other things. So thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I added an item to the agenda to talk a bit about the CLI extensions, and maybe we can talk after the updates.
Thanks a lot, guys. Happy to hear that Team is slowly growing. Good news. Then, any questions related to what Daniel and Gabby just said?
I guess one question is, when do you guys see the new version coming out, or like what's kind of the expected timeline looking like?
So we are not very sure whether to keep planning in this next grant for the development and then collectively decide what are the most important features and prioritize the roadmap, or if we should also include like some changes soon. It also kind of depends on the scope of the CLI extensions, because that was a much bigger scope than I anticipated. But yeah,
Okay.
not for sure. It depends whether we want to like rewrite the whole thing or slowly go there, or I was hoping maybe we can decide that together.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Just was interested in case you guys had some telemetry into that, but let's discuss off.
Cool.
Yeah, outside.
Great. Good. Maybe we can chat about that in some other old devs too. Thank you guys. Maybe Olivier or someone from Aragon Black can update us about your work, guys. Olivier, Xavier.
Hello. Hello.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I think I was good. Maybe I can go with the backend side, and then Xavier, you can talk about the front end side. Okay. So yeah, on the backend side, I was saying that we are done updating the contracts thanks to the mitigation phase of the audit. We use this opportunity to add a couple of features which mostly will be useful for governance purposes. We also are almost done reviewing the pre-sale contracts and integrating the pre-sale contracts. There's still one last thing to update to have it handle the case where ETH is the collateral, but Alejandro is helping us on that, which will be done tomorrow. Otherwise, everything's ready to ship for the next audit, where pre-sale and the new template and all are going to be audited. I'm also done updating the new template, which was kind of a nightmare because it's a really big template. It was a Tetris, but it's now working, so that's good. So yeah, on the backend side, everything will be ready and clean, I guess tomorrow or maybe the day after, and it's scheduled to ship to re-audit the 23, so that we can have pre-sale and templates re-audited. And on the front end side, I'm gonna let Xavier dive into more details, but mostly we are done updating on the front end, like the state and the components and all. Normally, Brett and Pierre are gonna help us review everything to make sure everything's working well. We are still, Xavier is gonna expand on that, but there is still some refactoring occurring on the chart stuff because the library we're using were not up to date, and we're also updating it to be more like trader friendly. Maybe Xavier, you can update on that.
Well, you said almost everything, but yeah, we used a library for the charts called recharts, and that library right now is lacking of a maintainer, and so we were a bit scared about using that library. And so we went for another, which is called Victory. So right now we are refactoring all the charts and trying to get some more meaningful charts. And we also added on the front end some features like trends and also some UI improvement, responsive stuff, and a few issues we are trying to to fix. And also, one focus for the team is to get a good workflow, at least a better one that we already had. And that's pretty much I have to say.
Yeah, so last thing we're working on right now is to work with A1 on the onboarding screen, because this is kind of a mess to actually figure out what are the good parameters to initialize the curve depending on what people want to do and what kind of fundraising they want to achieve. So we now have formulas to do that, so we'll just coordinate with A1 to actually come up with the implementation of the onboarding screen. And yeah, that should be it. So the idea is I'm leaving for vacation starting for next week for a week. The idea that when I come back, we should have the audit and the front end cleared. So we just include the updates and publish on mainnet as soon as possible, hopefully just before DevCon. So that's the plan.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. Any questions? On my side, I have one question. Could you guys clarify, when you're saying that you want to work with A1 for clarifying the onboarding process and for setting up bonding curves? What exactly do you refer to?
Yes, basically A1 is going to help us design the onboarding screen. The trick is that the kind of parameter that a bonding curve, like a Bancor formula curve, takes as an input are not really intuitive for end users, like virtual balance and virtual supply and stuff like that. And it does not really make sense for end users to figure out what this means and stuff like that. So the idea is to come up with more user-friendly input, like, okay, what do you want your starting price to be? What kind of market cap do you expect in the end of your trading campaign, fundraising campaign? Like, what should be the equilibrium point, your ending price, and being able through math to derive the actual parameters of the curve out of it.
Got it. Yeah, sounds great. Maybe another question. Like you said that the bit with the templates recently and including the ones Aragon 1 has been releasing in 0.8 and on mainnet with the pretty clogged Ethereum network templates end up being quite expensive to deploy. I'm wondering if fundraising will be bigger compared to some. So it's a more high level question, but bigger in terms of gas cost and stuff. And I'm wondering in general, if there's a conversation around how big do we want templates to be and stuff.
Yes, so to talk about fundraising, actually there was a couple of different challenge we had to tackle at once. One being the maximum size of a contract or the maximum gas cost you can use to deploy a contract, especially on Rinkeby where the limit is 7 millions. Also making it so that the transaction for the template stay below 7 millions, and also making it so that we don't have that many parameters because otherwise Solidity just can't compile. So in the end, it was a mess. We figured out a way to just pack everything into the template, but for deployment, we don't really care because it's once, but we are just below the 7 million limit. And even for the transaction, there are 4 transactions for fundraising because otherwise we would explode the gas limits for one transaction. And it's between 6 and 7. It's between 6 and 6.8 gas for each transaction, so it's pretty expensive in the end. Unfortunately, there's nothing more we can do about that because basically we just install the app and set the permissions, so there's not a lot of space for optimization on the template side. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty expensive to deploy the fundraising. I'm not sure this is a big problem because the goal is to raise funds. So even if it's $5, it's what I'm more concerned about is the network being all clogged these days because to fetch the events on the for the orders, For the client version of Aragon fundraising, we rely on the same event reducing system as we do for voting application, for instance, stuff like that. And with the network being all clogged, it's like a nightmare. Even for the sole Rinkeby demo organization that we have out there, people already have problem basically just fetching the state of the fundraising, the orders and all, because it takes minutes and maybe sometimes more. I mean, this is the same issue as we have with votes and all. Now the system is working well, but sometimes you have to clear the cache and reload everything but it's a network issue. But I think this is going to be a real issue for fundraising, because if we have tons of orders, which hopefully we will have, let's hope so.
Yeah.
To fetch the state, it's going to be a nightmare, especially if the network stays in this state for a couple of months. It's not going to be cool.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Anyone wants to add on top of this?
Yeah, we also, I think that this might be a topic of discussion for a future all devs call, because we also have very large templates. And I think it might be good to discuss like medium and long-term solutions that we can try to figure out the priority for as a community.
Yep, let's definitely hide that. Maybe if you guys are interested, we'll confirm that for next all devs and have it discussed probably. Let's do that. Cool.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. No, go on.
Cool. If there's no one else wanting to jump in this topic, I'll quickly give you guys an update from my side. I want to leave 10 seconds in case there's anyone left who wants to add. All right, so on my side, like on AA side, more precisely, we are hiring a new position, an ops manager position. I'll link it in the chat. If you guys have any good idea of someone who would be a fit for the position, please ping me and let me know about it, and don't hesitate to share the description of the role in your network. Would be very thankful for that. As some of you may have seen, we're still in the process of deploying the Nest DAO and corresponding process. This should be there will be a call like I invite anyone who's interested to participate in this call, a call at 5 p.m. on Thursday for Q&A on the Nest DAO. We're also working on some new governance processes and features for the Flock program governance using various DAOs, and I'll update everyone about that too and make a proposition probably in the coming days. And finally, we're working on after next network vote, merging the Flock and AGP process by creating a Flock track in the AGP process, just so it's more simple for Flock teams to. I mean, it's clearer and less rough to apply as a Flock team, because now the process is a bit messy. So we're working on that. And that's pretty much it for the association, other than usual stuff. So maybe we can move and start talking about the different topics that we have for today. We have 15 minutes left within the regular boundaries of the call. The first topic is opening up the Aragon GitHub organization to community members, and it was submitted by A1. So please, guys, feel free to introduce the topic.
Yeah, so this, I think we've touched upon the GitHub organization in a couple of previous all devs, but this is now something perhaps I'll start actioning. Particularly, it comes from having even a better idea of what the developer community looks like for Aragon, but also just giving certain community members who have contributed in some way some ability to represent themselves as an Aragon community member. And one great way to do this is having the GitHub badge on your profile. So I've been thinking that we should start transitioning the GitHub organization on, the Aragon organization on GitHub to be a little bit more open. So we can invite as many people as we really need to. And this would just be like almost like a badge of honor, just saying, yeah, we recognize that you're a big part of this community. You may be funded by Aragon itself. You may not be funded by Aragon, and you may just be a community member, but you've shown great work and we'd love to invite you to like represent yourself. And so it's mostly about doing things I had said before about transitioning the GitHub organization to having a few more permissions than like everyone having write and delete access on repos, which is not the best for security. But now I think we're really starting to think about opening up. So we would have like a contributors team inside the GitHub organization that we would invite people into. And that way it's again, another good way to show like I'm reputable. I've been recognized for my work in this community, et cetera, et cetera.
Sounds really great. I really love initiatives that go towards opening more to community contributors and I mean from both sides, like making users and developers participating in the organization. Is there any? I think like what you're proposing is a pretty light way to start doing it using GitHub, and basically I expect you plan to give the badge to people like that have been coming up with PRs or issues and stuff. I mean, I'm wondering if there's any additional effort that you would help with to spot community members, or to also like communicate a bit around the fact that we're implementing such practices and stuff, or it's just like you want to keep it light at the moment?
Yeah, I definitely think we can start light, and the governance process, whatever it may be, is probably going to be fairly light. Like probably anybody inside that community may have the ability to invite other people. I need to double check exactly what GitHub lets us do, but it's meant to be like, I don't know, quite light and quite open. It's just like really about recognition, and if you've been recognized by someone in the community for doing great work, then by all means join it. But until you do other things on top, we won't escalate privileges to say, okay, now you have et cetera privileges on repos. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing in this is finding the past people. There's more than just GitHub activity. There's also the discourse and chat and other types of places where the community hangs out. And I don't know, like, the hard thing is we need to find those people's GitHub names and all of that.
Yeah.
So that might be like a slightly different avenue.
Yeah,
there's also other ideas too that we've been thinking about in terms of more badges. I think there is this open badges concept, and we've been thinking about giving and like creating Aragon versions of those open badges to people who do various things, and then they can display those kind of like an NFT wallet type of thing, but not quite on a chain. It's just like a signed version of a badge.
Cool. I guess we can also, like, I mean, some active community members, we may want to create a forum post to raise awareness around the existence. So if anyone wants to to join in to get the badge and is an active community member or whatever. Maybe you can start like that, and then, as you said, like go like start pretty light and just add people as they contribute from now on. But yeah, sounds like a great idea. I don't know if anyone wants to add on or question this initiative, or if anyone is enthusiastic about it. If anyone has a strong objection against doing this, please say it. But otherwise, we'll go on to the next topic if you're okay with that, Brett.
Yeah, sounds good. So it sounds like the action items are to basically figure out the GitHub permissions, and then I'll write a forum post and, amongst other things, try to raise awareness of this.
Perfect. Yeah, I can. I mean, I'll do like small hands around the process and maybe try to ping different community members that I think could deserve the badge. Yeah, I'll do that. Cool. Next topic then. Major League hacking and other hackathons. Same A1.
Yeah, so this was kind of I guess just a query to see if we're getting involved in any of these types of things. I think we had talked about it briefly at the start of the year when we went to Toronto Hacks or U of T Hacks. And at that point in time, we had said, okay, let's wait until like September. Let's wait for our dev tooling to get even better. And then we'll see in September when the new fresh season of university hackathons and whatnot start showing up. And I'm just wondering, like, if anybody has resources or is already thinking about participating in some of these events over the next month and a half or so. I think the season goes on until like the end of November. But the big one that's still left, I think, is Yale Hacks for this year, at least.
So are all hackathons from the major league, or is it like just in general?
Yeah, so I can clarify. Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously other hackathons too, but in particular, I guess the Major League Hacking stuff is around university hackathons, and we had tried like both crypto hackathons and more generally inspired hackathons previously, and I don't think we've done so many university hackathons. But when we tried to do it earlier in this year, there was really not too many left in the season. This whole Major League hacking thing is like a casual hackathon thing that a bunch of universities across North America and Europe organize around, and they mostly do it from the fall to the early spring of each year. And by the time like 2019 or like the January comes around, there's like only a few kind of more interesting events, higher leverage events to go to, because most of the events are very loaded in like the September and October parts of the year.
Got it. Then my first question is there anyone interested or planning in participating, or interested in supporting such initiatives?
Where are those? Like this kind of is all in the United States or also in Europe?
So yeah, you can visit the website to find out more places. I had actually not checked into it too much, and this year I am actually a little bit disappointed with the places that are this is happening. I feel like a lot of the big names and a lot of the big hackathons may have just left this major league thing and done their own thing. But yeah, again, there's Boston Hacks and there's Yale Hacks, I think, that are still left. Maybe Boston Hacks is already done. But yeah, so anyway, most of them are in North America, and there are a few small ones in Europe. But I haven't really looked for other types of things in other continents.
Cool. My question.
Thanks.
Sorry, is there anyone speaking?
No, I say thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, Gabby. Yeah. So, quick question, like related to the resources that we could put into that. I mean, outside of anyone who wants to be, who is really interested and wants to dedicate like personal time attending some of these. Yeah, I'm wondering like today if we have resources to the organization like in Aragon to answer like for example, yeah, this kind of initiatives that Brett is coming up with. I don't know if Brett, like, for example, like anyone in Aragon one would be able to dedicate some time to these kind of things, or because it feels like everyone is pretty busy working and stuff, and maybe like could be interesting to have someone with a bit more time for this kind of endeavors.
Yeah, I mean the. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So from our perspective, I think this is a really interesting initiative to start moving towards. I had the opportunity to go to one of these last year in Toronto and see just how sort of the general hackathon community approaches doing more blockchain related tasks. And I think it's a really great way to start pulling information. And in general, I think it's something that we'd support. I realistically don't think that we're going to have time until November. I see that the only big one in November is the Boston Hack, so that's probably the most practical from our perspective. I can't say for certain that we'd be able to put resources towards that one, but I can say for certain that we wouldn't be able to really put any resources towards anything else, except for I do see there's a much smaller one local to me. I don't know if there's ones local to anybody else on our team. Maybe that's something we could consider. But in terms of like traveling to something, I just don't see us having time until November. But I am in favor of this sort of an initiative long term, and I think that it's something that we should definitely like keep in the horizon.
Yeah, and exactly that. The major challenge I think for A1 right now is that these events are happening not in Europe for the most part. The ones in Europe that I've seen are small, but maybe we can try to do one before the end of the year is up or early next year. It's just yeah, it's quite difficult flying a couple people over to North America just for the weekend, unless they're already planning to be there or something.
Yeah, for sure. Very true. I guess that in general, like we, yeah. Again, I think now as Arthur is saying, like I mean, I can guess. I usually don't like attend much this kind of events, but I guess like blockchain related projects are more and more appealing, and yeah, it would make more and more sense to be there in one way or another. I don't know if it means like having a bit more um, having someone or working with someone that is outside of the Aragon ecosystem through some contracting or Nest grant or whatever to help us be there. I think would be interesting also in terms of starting to raise awareness a bit around Aragon at the time where like blockchain is becoming sexier and sexier.
Well, one small question is I'm having is the how these hackathons, like if Aragon wants to be present in there, how do you like reach people to really try to start using our tools? How that process should look like?
Yeah, Arthur can also give some insight into this based on his experience at U of T Hacks. But generally, I think we probably go for a small sponsorship of some sort, of which the details we can figure out. Usually, these student hackathons, and this is part of the reason why they're interesting, is that they're very cheap to get into, and to like for students, any amount of money is a good amount of money. And to do these types of sponsorships, it's fairly simple. We just contact the organizers and say, "Hey, look, we're interested in showing up, and like, what are like some of these packages look like," and then just letting the organizers know how to organize around that. And then at the day or days of the events, it's really just being there and presenting and grabbing developers and asking them if they'd be interested in doing something like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think an interesting thing in terms of like approaching these is well, I guess there's two things. So one, I think we really need to think like strategically, what's our goal at having a presence at these events? Most companies that go to these are basically looking for, like, to recruit talent, and I don't necessarily think that's what we're looking for. The other potential benefit I can see these sort of events having for us is like getting hands-on testing with the tools from people that are approaching it with completely new eyes, which I think has a lot of value. In terms of getting people to like choose your tools to hack on, I was really surprised to see that generally it doesn't seem like financial rewards are the most enticing. I think that what drew most people to like the projects that they ended up hacking on were like the engagement or puzzle elements that the different companies brought, and sort of like the novelty of the sort of rewards or prize packages. And I definitely think that in general, the students were most interested in opportunities. So like one of the big questions that people ask was like, are you offering internships to people that hack on this? So I think that that's something that we should consider. Like if there's not some sort of like internship opportunity, there's a much lower chance that people will be engaged with trying to hack on Aragon at one of these things. And then what are our goals? What sort of information or you know, like what can we extract from being at one of these things? Because without that information, I don't necessarily think it's worth pursuing.
Cool. Very interesting points. Maybe we can have that as an action item for to address offline in some conversations. But if you guys can note this down in the agenda, I think that yeah, indeed, like having clear goals and how we want to address them makes a lot of sense. So let's keep digging into this. On my side, I still think that yeah, I mean that's a very longer term project. That we're thinking about having an Aragon Academy, something that would be like a new program for individuals that would receive grants to start learning aggressively about Aragon and maybe quickly hack and help teams in the ecosystem. And this could be like a first entry to this kind of program. So let's think about it. And I hope also like if we have enough person at the association, I don't expect that's going to be a short-term a possibility, but if we can have this person also you know, working a bit on that, on such events, could be interesting. But otherwise, let's keep that as action items and maybe come up with the topic in next call. We're running out of time. Maybe Gabby and Daniel from Mesh, do you guys want to bring up your topic quickly if these are pressing or somewhat pressing issues, and we will wrap it up after that.
Well, it's about the microkernel architecture of the GUI client and how we can do something similar to the CLI to support extensions. But I guess we could move it to the next all dev calls and maybe take this offline with with Brett or someone that's interested in the CLI extensions. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think if you want to get, yeah, if you guys want to take 1 minute to discuss it, we can do it. Otherwise, yeah, let's do it offline as you want.
Yeah, I think Daniel, it'd be interesting just to hear your ideas on or like give a little bit more insight into what you're thinking, just so we can let it.
Great. So just to give quickly a bit of background, this is about allowing third-party apps to extend the CLI. For example, the Pando app needs to access desktop capabilities like Git to be able to send your Git repository to IPFS and Ethereum. And there might be some other apps that their needs might not be sufficient by just the web UI. So you might want to have like a command line interface where you also have this extended API of the file system and other benefits the operating system is giving you. And basically to allow this, we will have to have a mechanism to install and keep track of these extensions or apps or plugins, and have a way for them to communicate with each other and think about the sandboxing and the security needs of this. And to go about it, the most logical idea will be to do something the same that the Aragon OS or the GUI client is implementing, the microkernel architecture, which is have like a small kernel app that takes care of managing apps and managing sensitive things like signing keys, and then have people develop binaries or Node apps or Rust apps or whatever that interact with this kernel. And I thought it will make a lot of sense to be as closely related to the GUI, so that it's not its own thing that only a couple of people know how it works and might get rewritten in the future, and also because it's quite similar in terms of how to approach this. But the question that I wanted to ask is how to deal with these apps that do not have contracts. For example, in the GUI, the UI and the contract are very coupled together. They are packaged into the same APM repository. And also, apps do not have a way to read from another contract. And I was thinking maybe it might sense to decouple this, so have an APM repo that is concerned with the contract, and have an APM repo package that is concerned with reading the data and displaying the data. And that might also enable to develop alternative interfaces or apps that aggregate the data of multiple apps, like an app that shows the relation between token changes and votes and stuff like that. But I guess it's like a bigger topic. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Any remarks or questions?
Yeah, for that latter part, it sounds difficult, and it's essentially sounds like this entire topic of the monolithic applications that hasn't really changed over the last 9 or so months.
Yeah,
that's something that
I remember we talked about it in Aragon about monolithic apps, but I don't remember the resolution. And it's a much bigger issue to tackle. So it's also a question of priority, how badly we want this CLI extension integration and how good it is. Or should we like focus on other features or yeah?
Yeah, this to me, it definitely sounds like something we should punt off for the future. Want to have a better story of figuring out how to do this for the front end. We can maybe use a similar strategy in the CLI. Again, I don't know how many CLI apps, let's call them, would need this type of functionality from the get-go, because it's mostly management and execution things that are happening inside the CLI for now. It just seems like a lot of complexity and effort for things that probably aren't as important for the CLI right now.
Well, it's also, I guess, a good idea to decouple these things as soon as possible so they can scale. For example, if someone wants to create a different interface for the voting app or something that maybe they trust more or something, there isn't really a way to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, supporting different front ends per contracts or per contract or multiple contracts is definitely part of that discussion.
If I can tell something about that, I think this is there are two issues there. One being the CLI as such and the ability to extend the CLI. The other one being about Aragon.js and how it's being designed. Actually, besides the technical choice of EarthJS and all, which is not much a good one, but besides that, it's been designed to run into the clients, so for sandboxing and all. I think we are really lacking smaller and more modular Aragon.js library, which will not make this kind of assumption, so which would not be made especially for the Aragon client, which would not especially care about sandboxing, sorry, and which will just be a small and modular way to fetch information out of the organization, like what are the apps installed, what are the permissions, stuff like that, and easily give access to contracts ABI, and then people could do whatever they want. So, for instance, to build a new front end, it will not be like, I don't have to rebuild everything from scratch. I can already fetch informations, access the ABI thanks to APM, stuff like that. And then I can do whatever I want and integrate however I want, interact however I want with my contracts. Enforce sandboxing if I want, but probably not if I'm building custom front end for something. I know.
Yeah, so
yeah.
For example, we could allow the extensions to just have like a Web3 instance and do all this stuff. And my question was like, why doesn't the sandboxing in the web interface allow the clients a full Web3 instance? Are there some security stuff there, or won't this change in behavior be confusing to have more access using the Node API rather than the web app?
Yeah, but I think Brett can tell more than I do about that, but I think the whole idea of not being able to access Web3 directly is precisely to enforce sandboxing, because otherwise you could call any kind of transaction from within any app. So this is a limitation which is cool for a security perspective, but I think the idea of having the Aragon.js for the client being built on top of another and smaller library, which will not make this kind of assumption, would be really helpful. I know we're going to be fucked kind of for the fundraising platform, for instance, because basically we need people to easily fetch information from fundraising DAOs, easily invest in DAO and all. And actually, the current Aragon.js library does not really allow that, because making it work outside of the clients is really not well suited. So one of the plans, actually, we put it in the Flock proposal, is that we intend to develop maybe a lightweight version of Aragon.js, which is not intending to work into the client. Because, I mean, we're going to need that library to build the Dow Jones or fundraising or whatever you want to call it platform for people, discovery platform for fundraising apps. So simply fetching information and fetching the ABI so that you can interact with the contracts. So yeah, one one of the idea. Maybe this is to be discussed, but either we do it on purpose for the Aragon apiary or fundraising platform, but maybe it's a little bit stupid, or we try to make this library that we're going to need a little bit more modular, so that basically it kind of serves as a basis for an Aragon JS Lite library that people can use if they want to use a client, if they want to build client for Aragon outside of the Aragon client. For instance, a CLI application, for instance, a specific front-end, web front-end for a specific set of apps and stuff like that, so that they kind of have the bare bones to fetch information from the DAO, fetch the ABI and the contract, to interact with them, and stuff like that.
But wouldn't apps already be able to call any read data from the blockchain or send transactions? I mean,
can you repeat?
Isn't like the blockchain data already public? So aren't apps? Can't apps already access that even in the sandbox? Maybe they can make an HTTP call to a server, and the server just can read it from the blockchain. So
yeah, I know that it's already the case, but if you want to do it in like one line of code, like, okay, I got this kernel address and I want to know which app are installed, what are the address of the installed app. I want basically my truffle artifacts initialized with these addresses and stuff like that, to just have to call my functions afterwards. I want to see the set of permissions. Maybe we want to have forwarding implemented, pass forwarding implemented anyhow, because this can be used outside of the front end. I think all these kind of things can be used outside of the client as such. For instance, for a CLI application, for instance, for a specific front end for, I don't know, for the fundraising platform, but for any other kind of specific front end. And for now, Aragon JS is really not suited to achieve this kind of stuff. So,
okay, maybe we can have like a discussion on the chat, or like a chat channel where we can continue this.
Yeah, I think this is a really good idea.
Awesome. Great. Then thank you, everyone. I don't know if yeah, I think we're good for today, and for all Devs 31. We'll see each other in 2 weeks on the 30th, I guess. And wish you all a great evening for those of you who are in Europe, and great day for those of you who are in North America, Latin America, and all that. Yeah, bye-bye, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.